Hello and welcome back to Art after half term. Hope you had a really nice half term break. So you might be asking yourself, why is Miss Copcut sitting there with a load of rubbish on the table in front of her? That's because this is what I'm going to use to make your collaged insect out of. Now, I wanted to show you the kinds of things that you might have at home that you could use while you're to make your collaged insect. So, what have I got here? Well, mostly I've raided my recycling. So I have, for example, this is an envelope that was sent through the post. The inside of it is a really nice pale blue colour. Here I've got a box of chocolates that I finished off and I've flattened out the box so I can use it for a really nice pale pink colour. Here I have a henna box I've used and again I flattened that out because it's got some really nice bright yellows and blues on it. I've got the wrapper from a can of chickpeas because I might be able to use some of the bit with the chickpea picture on it. I've got things that have come through my door, just the rubbish that comes through the door. So this is some stuff to do with charity, Water Aid. I've got a catalogue from Tool Station, which has come through my door. I've also got the wrapper that one of my magazines came in because it's got some really nice pictures of plants on it that I might be able to use for my collage. And over the back here, I also have got an old map book. So this is a really old one. It's a bit mangled, but maps are really good for cutting up to use for collage. So your first task really for this is you need to find yourself lots of stuff that you can cut up to make your butterfly or your beetle. Okay, be really imaginative. Look through your recycling. It can be cardboard as long as it's quite thin. I've also got some old wrapping paper here. This is actually, you can see it's been used. It's got sellotape on it. But again, I can cut this up and use this for my collage. Be really imaginative. What you're really looking for is colours and patterns. Okay, the more creative you are with this, the better. Okay, so I'm going to start to choose the things that I'm going to use for my collage. Once I've done that, I'll come back to you and show you the way to get started with this. Happy hunting! Okay, so I've chosen these two materials to use for the main part of my butterfly. Okay, so I've chosen them because I like the purple colour with the purple in the stripe of my wrapping paper. And what I've done first of all is I've folded them both in half, because this way we get perfect symmetry. Okay, so you can see I folded that really carefully and I've drawn one of the butterfly wings on. So now I'm going to cut that out carefully. Take time to do your cutting really nicely. I was really careful, by the way, when I cut the shape on, I should show you this actually, that I placed it where there was going to be the most amount of purple, so not down here. Yeah, I don't mind the fact that there's lots of writing, that's absolutely fine, but I wanted to make sure there was as much colour as I could get. So make sure you check that as you're working with your collage materials. So I'm just going to carry on cutting into here. And then when I open that up, I've got my first two parts of the wings, and then on the bottom part here I've done the same thing. I've folded it in half. I've drawn the outline that I want for the bottom part, bottom two wings of my butterfly. So again, because it's folded in half, if I cut with it folded up, it will cut two at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to do that and I'll come back to you when that's finished. Okay, so you can see that I finished cutting out the main wing shapes for my butterfly now. And now I'm going to start to add the pattern over the top. So I've chosen this blue colour, which kind of matches the blue in the stripe. And I've chosen the inside of my envelope. And you can see that again, what I've done is I've folded those in half and I've drawn onto it the shapes that I want to cut out. Now you might find it be really useful for you to look at a picture of a butterfly whilst you're doing that. This is what I did. I looked at a picture of a butterfly online so I could see what the patterns on the wing looked like, and I drew my shapes based on that. Alright, so now I can start to cut those out. Again, do this nice and carefully. You need to hold the two sides of your paper together quite firmly, just to make sure that you don't accidentally, they don't move apart. So because then what you should end up with each time is two pieces the same. That's the whole point of folding it in half. Saves you cutting as well. You're only cutting everything once. Okay, so you'll notice as I'm doing this as well, I'm turning my paper quite a lot. This makes it a lot easier for cutting out. If you try to go around all in one go, it's a lot harder. Okay, so cut those two out, and then I can start to position those onto the wings of my butterfly. So you can see how I'm starting to build up a pattern onto the butterfly. Okay, so I'm going to carry on cutting out shapes from pieces of paper and laying it out, and I'll come back to you when you can see a lot more of the pattern and how that's progressing. Okay, so you can see I've made some progress with adding the pattern onto my butterfly. Mainly I've just used the inside of the envelope and the advert for water aid that I was put through my door. And then I've also I've started to put a spot like you get on some butterflies up in the corner. And you can see that I'm layering actually different shapes, one bigger and then a smaller one over the top. This is a chocolate wrapper that I must have had left over from Christmas. I often keep chocolate wrappers. Now, though, I've noticed that this part of the wing here, you can see that I've got a rip on it, which I'm going to try and sort of cover over. I'm not too worried about it, but I'm going to cover it over, and I want to cover it over with this paper. So I'm just going to quickly dismantle part of my insect. Okay, then I've got my wrapping paper here, still folded. I am going to keep it folded. Then I'm going to draw around the edge of the wing, because that way I know it will fit over the top absolutely perfectly. So I'm using the wing as a template now, but I'm not doing all of it. So I've drawn that shape on. And then I'm just going to bring in here to create a kind of border. So if you do have any bits that you're not happy with, think about cutting out shapes to cover those over. Okay, so I'm going to cut that out, and I'm going to carry on adding more pattern, and I'll show it to you when we're ready to start sticking it down. Okay, so you can see that I have finished cutting out all the shapes for my butterfly, all the patterns. I've tried to only use a few different types of paper so that I'm using the same things over and over again. It will look better if you use only a few different colours. It will look much nicer. It will look a bit muddled if you use too much. Now I'm going to need to take this whole thing apart so that I can stick it all down. So the first thing that I would always do when I get to this stage, you need to make sure you've spent a bit of time arranging it. Don't stick it down as you're going along, arrange it beforehand. And then, so that you remember what your design looks like, my top tip for you is take a photograph of it on your phone. So if you take a photograph of it at this point, you'll have that to refer to as you're sticking everything back into place, because otherwise you're unlikely to remember where everything went, as you will see. So I'm now going to take the entire thing apart. Fortunately, I have already photographed this. So I'm going to tip all that over there, because the first things I need to stick down are the main wing shapes before I can do any of the bits that go over the top. So I'm using Pritt Stick, but you can use PVA. That would work perfectly well for this. Works really easily, actually. I'm not going to use, you can see all I'm doing actually is going around the edges. You don't need to use loads of glue. You just need a bit to get it stuck down. Okay, get it right nice and in the middle of the page. Stick it down really thoroughly. If you get these background pieces stuck down well, then you're off to a good start. All right, so I'm going to carry on gluing all my pieces down, referring back to the photograph that I took so I know what this looks like, and I'll come back to you when it's finished so you can see the finished result. Welcome back. As you can see, I have now finished sticking down all the pieces for my butterfly collage. I'm quite pleased with it. I'm quite pleased with the way I've repeated the same colours all over it, and the way it's added a pattern to it now. So I can't wait to see what you guys do for your collages. So don't forget, please, you must, once you've finished making your collage, make sure that you photograph it and you share it with me, either through Instagram at instacabart, or upload it to OneDrive and share it with me to my email, hannah.copcut@clf.uk. Can't wait to see what you do, and see you next week.